Hey everybody, welcome to this month's question of the month. And this month's question comes from Jeff Basher. He actually asked two questions, which is a little sneaky. And of course, remember, if you want to ask your own question, just go to yoganatomy.com/my question. So Jeff's question is, shoulder rotation seems to be limiting my ability to do handstands and forearm stands. I am 66 and have been doing yoga for about 8 years, and my shoulder rotation has improved, but is still not the point that allows me to do handstands without really arching my back to compensate for lack of shoulder rotation. I'm beginning to wonder if this is just my anatomy. What poses can I do to increase shoulder rotation, and how do I know when it is just bone structure that will never allow me full rotation? Also, this is kind of the second question that's related. Also, in forearm stand, I find it very difficult to keep my forearms parallel. Hands moving closer together and base is more of a V instead of being parallel, which is, of course, very common. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So, the first thing I need to point out is, Jeff, when you say shoulder rotation, there's the shoulder rotating sort of internally and externally. But because you're talking about handstands, I get the feeling that you're really talking about rotation going this way. That's what you mean by rotate, which is really flexion this way. Unless you mean up here and then rotating, it's not totally clear, but I think I understand your question enough based on what you said. So to figure out, first of all, if it's anatomical, there's two things you can do to find out how much mobility you have in your shoulder joint itself. So what you can do is you can place one hand on the top of the shoulder, and then if you try to flex it, you see mine gets to about 90 degrees, or if I do it out to the side, it's about 90 degrees, in other words, a straight line. So if you go to do that and you get only to here, well then, yeah, you might have restriction in your shoulder joint, which can be based on the type of scapula that you have, which there's 3 types, and so there could be an anatomical component to it, which would, if that is true, would mean that you do have to compensate in some other way. In your case, you do that by letting your back arch more. You know, there's an underlying assumption there that the spine must be straight, which you need to be careful with because it is what it is. You can only work with what you got, and remember, postures kind of go progressively. They change over time as you change, as your technique changes, as your body changes. So it's okay to be arching your back for some period of time, and you try to straighten it over the course of more time. The other thing you can do to test, coming back, is if it's more of this direction, if you're not weight bearing, can you raise your arm straight up and keep your spine straight? And if the answer is yes, then it's not anatomical. But what it could be then is that you're using, let's say, I'll say for lack of a better word, the wrong muscles at the wrong time and creating sort of a blocking here, which I see often in forearm balance. So it might be connected there, where this space doesn't open enough. The space from the back of your arm to your torso isn't open enough in forearm balance or possibly in handstand, because you might be engaging all of this not quite in the right way, which would be very subtle, and we need to get together and look at that, a little bit more specifically for you. But that could be the problem there. And I'll just add on one more thing to forearm balance. One, you're going to check this, make sure this space is staying open. But what is implied for everybody who tries forearm balance and their hands squeezed together like this is it means you're not putting enough weight or pressure through your entire forearm. And the weight is sitting back into the elbow, and so the hand is getting light, and as a result of that, or your shoulders are too wide, and what happens is this happens over time. So there's not enough weight here. So you kind of have to push through all of this in forearm balance and use that to help open this, that connection. If you can find that connection, I have a feeling it's going to help you out a lot, Jeff. All right, that finishes up that question of the month. Anybody else, if you got a question, yoganatomy.com/my question. See you on the next one.